Here I am again. Changed up my lighting rig a little bit, so hopefully this is going to come through okay. And yeah, great. So thanks for, I called for volunteers to share your work. I just saw another one from Maddie, so thanks. I actually had yours pulled up anyway, Maddie, so I was going to show it off whether you authorized me to or not. But anyway, I was, not really, but I do appreciate, yeah, thanks for sharing your projects. I'm just writing a message there. So this is DGST 101 Section 2, final stream for spring 2020. So thanks for tuning in. I will be kind of talking and rambling vaguely for a few minutes for people to get online if they would like to. So yeah, this is it. I've changed my lighting up. Hopefully I look okay. I'm looking at the preview and it looks better than it did before, which is that I have a lamp. I just put a lamp like right on top of my monitor, and so it's very, very bright in my eyes as I'm looking at it, but I think I can manage, and I think that I look better to you all, so hopefully that's good. If you compare this stream to the last one, maybe you can see the difference that I'm talking about. I have a green screen now. I don't know if you've seen this before, but I have I made it. I didn't buy a fancy green screen. I don't know if you care, but I went to, Walmart is still open. I bought $8 worth of neon green poster board and glued it to my wall. So this is like an outdoor, this is a part of my house that used to be an outside facing wall. So this is brick behind me. And so I just hot glued it. It gets humid in this room because it's not climate controlled. So that was an issue with stickiness. So I just got a hot glue gun and I glued these neon green poster boards behind me. And then I had to enhance it a little bit with some duct tape. But you can't see it, so at least I hope you can't see it. That's the idea. It's supposed to be invisible. But I thought this would be useful for me to be like on a web page, and so I can be like when I'm showing something off, I can be like, there's the eagle that Brian made. So there's less. So basically, I'm taking up a little bit less room than I would otherwise. I'm seeing there's a little bit of right there. You can see it. I was worried about that. That's a little bit of just Scotch tape right there that kind of reflects the light differently, I think. So I might need to do something about that, but that's not a big deal. It's just going to distract me now that I noticed it. So anyway, you also might have seen I was testing this out, streaming some games now that I have this computer set up where I can actually do some games. I don't do much gaming at all anymore, but I don't have time. But I did play some Super Hexagon and got through my record, and been playing this game Photonica. This is like, I don't know about you, but I have a Steam library of PC games that I just buy, like not recently, but whenever they go on sale, I'm like, oh, that's a good deal. So I'm going to pay $2 for this game. And then so I have this big library of games I've never played. So I'm kind of working through those. Some of them are like older classic games, and some of them are newer kind of experimental games. So I don't know much about this game Photonica, but I've been really playing it a lot the past few days. I really like it. It's like a running kind of game. I wanted to mention this. I'm going to post this on the CDS Facebook group in a little while, but I just got a Facebook message from Stephanie Che. She's a former student, former CDS student, right? I mean, an alum of our program with a job opportunity. So that's the kind of thing, if you're not in the Facebook group, that's the kind of thing to join. A good reason to join the Facebook group is that we post things like this. I have not actually looked at the link, but it looks like it's a job working with her. So it's I'll post a link in the information later, but it's believeinstudents.org. So that's the website and the center that she works for. I believe that's at I believe they're based at Temple University. Anyway, it looked like a part-time job, but it's an entry-level kind of part-time job, so I think there is an idea that it could become something more. So it looks like it will be designing and formatting reports, creating graphics for social media, supporting other people gathering and sharing social media things. So for this, they do want you to be proficient in Adobe InDesign. That's something that we haven't really covered in this class, but that's something that you might be able to pick up pretty quickly, or you may already have. But then there's also proficient in things like Hootsuite, WordPress, and InDesign. Hootsuite is a social media management tool, basically, and you, I know that I'm pretty sure On Route covers that in the social media class, but it's also just like you can do just like free online courses in Hootsuite. It's honestly pretty easy to use. I don't know. It's not that hard. Anyway, so something to check out. I'll post a link shortly after I finish the stream. But yeah, it's always good to hear from alums about job opportunities, especially for things that emphasize the kind of skills that you develop in classes like DGST 101 and 395. So speaking of which, I am teaching 395 in the fall, and I believe many of you in this spring's 101 are signed up for my fall 395. So that's great. That's a class that I've done multiple times and always kind of change it a bit. It's a class that I feel like I'm still trying to figure out, honestly. So it's a class that started off as a very small section, and so we could do certain things in that section that I have not really figured out how to scale up to. Like my first time I taught it, I had 15 students, and now I typically carry 50 to 60 students in that class. So it's like, that's a really big difference. So figuring that out has been tricky for me, but we'll get something figured out in the fall. I think one thing that I might do differently, and you may just know this if you've talked to other people who've taken my class, 395, I do a lot with programming. Like I try to get students involved in and learning some computer programming. I think that's a good thing. I think many students found that really challenging and didn't really find it very useful either in 395 when I've taught in the past. So some liked it, some didn't, whatever, but that's always how it is. I think though, for you all, and I say that you all for those of you who will be continuing with me in the fall, since we didn't get to do any web design really in this iteration of 101, like usually I do a whole unit on HTML and kind of thinking about design for the web, I might sort of put that into 395 and emphasize that instead of programming, because if we spend a little bit more time with it than we would have spent in 101, we can get a bit more advanced, and I think that would be pretty useful for you as you're thinking about what you can do with this kind of work. So, check that out. I mean, that's something that, again, I'm still thinking about it, but that's an idea. Speaking of coding, by the way, I am teaching a summer class on creative coding. So if you're interested in another summer class or picking up a summer class, it's a great opportunity to learn some programming without you don't have to have any prior experience. I think it's a pretty gentle introduction, and the kinds of projects that you do are kind of low stakes projects because they're creativity oriented projects. So really the ideas are much more important than the programming. And so I'll give you what you need to know in terms of the programming part, but really, it's a fun opportunity to try some things out and figure some things out. The kinds of projects that I've typically done with that class involve Twitter bots and poetry and computer-generated visuals, artwork. And you've probably seen some of the glitch art on the HCC media wall. That's something that is also a creative coding project. So if you're interested in that kind of work, then definitely check that out. It's a June-July class, so you still have plenty of time to think about it and sign up if you'd like. DGST 301A, creative coding. If you're at all interested in creative coding, in the class, I would say don't put it off, because I don't know when I will get to teach this class again, just the way things are going with staffing and the money things. So I don't want to get into the details, but basically it's just too complicated. Long story short, I don't know when I'll get to teach this class again. It might not be for another year or two. So if you are at all interested in creative coding, check it out and let me know if you have any questions or if you're considering it. So yeah, great. Okay, so speaking of creative coding, this is actually I did want to spend some time today talking about some of the projects that you've all done this semester and showing off some of these. Like in the face-to-face class on the last day, I like to do something like this where I ask for volunteers to talk about their favorite projects and then show them to the class. It's kind of hard to do that in this format, but with the stream I can kind of control the narrative and the screen here, and I've asked for volunteers and I've gotten a couple, so that's great. So this is Brian's creativity project. So this goes all the way back to creative coding. This is a project Brian did with, what was that tool? It's like it's a graphics, yeah, turtle, right? So it's a turtle. I think there's actually an old, like a story behind the turtle. I think turtle might be the name of the drawing library in Python, but I think there is like a super old program from like the 1970s that was called Turtle that you could do vector graphics with, or like you would. And the idea was like you would give instructions for think of the turtle as your pen, and you would give it instructions for where to walk and draw, basically, something like that. So, but in any case, yeah. So Brian made this series of polygons basically to create this really cool looking eagle out of a series of triangles, and using the turtle drawing tool to create each of those. So it's really cool. I mean, it's definitely something that took a lot of thought first of all, but then figuring out the programming I'm sure was very intricate. Like figuring out like point by point where to go for each of those points is really cool, and the effect is great. I believe, didn't you? I remember seeing it. You made a GIF of the process of it being drawn, but I don't know if that's linked in here. I also did not know that this eagle is named Becky. So I guess that's a good name. I mean, is she related to Sam? Sammy? Sam D. Eagle? I don't know how that works. But yeah, very cool, and I really appreciate you sharing this and showing off the kind of thing that you can do with some creative coding. Like this is the kind of thing I don't do Turtle necessarily in my creative coding class, but I think that maybe I should. I do for the drawing kind of things. I use something called P5JS, which is JavaScript. But I think a lot of the workflow that you would think through in terms of how to draw something like this in P5JS would be kind of similar to what Brian did for Turtle. A little different, but like in terms of thinking of a coordinate system and polygons and stuff, that's definitely something that P5JS does. So that would be pretty cool to try that in a different in that other program too. But anyway, yeah, very cool. Thanks. Also, Brian, I thought you didn't volunteer this, but I thought I would show this as well. Like your Bob Ross work, I thought was really cool. So I wanted to show this off. This is the methodology project, and so what Brian did with in this case is use the image Z projection thing, and this was the kind of visualization that Kevin Ferguson and what's his name, Jason Salavon were doing. Salavon did that with the Simpsons images, and Kevin Ferguson was working with Disney movies basically. So this is Brian's work with Bob Ross paintings, and let me make sure, am I still showing the right tab? Okay, good. So this is a lot of his paintings. I don't know if it's all of them, but it's a large chunk of them, and I think it's really interesting, and you can definitely see an aesthetic here, or a set of compositional choices that Bob Ross is making over and over again when he does those paintings, right? Like you can kind of see a landscape here, right? Like there's the sky, there's sort of something bright in the middle, sometimes it's a mountain, sometimes it's a cloud. There's often a stream or a path going down the middle that divides the space more or less in the middle, and you can see how there's stuff on the sides, those happy little trees. There's sort of an oval shape here. I know sometimes he did paint in ovals, like use a mask and then like remove that mask, and then the middle part would be the painting. So that might be left over from some of those. But in any case, you can definitely see he's interested in these things at those, like about a third of the way here, about a third of the way here, maybe a quarter, and then this middle part. Like you can definitely see how he organizes his space visually, and it's pretty interesting because now we've got some insight into what we can expect, and you can see each painting contributing to that. If you looked at each painting one at a time, or you tried to follow it, but a sort of major takeaway that you could interpret from this image is like that there is this pattern that Bob Ross is doing. His paintings, I think, are mostly successful aesthetically. Like you look at them and enjoy them. So here's maybe a secret insight into how he's achieving that is through this pretty consistent design schema. See, it's about halfway. The horizon is almost always around the halfway point. So that's another kind of thing that you could extract from this insight, an insight that you could extract from this image and then apply it to your own painting if you were trying to paint like Bob Ross or just be a good painter. So yeah, really cool, and I hope you don't mind me sharing that because I thought that worked out really well. So I also just have a tab full of other projects, and I'm kind of taking for granted that if you've submitted them and they are online, that it's okay for me to share them. If that's not the case, then let me know if you'd rather me not share some of these. Some of these do seem to have a personal kind of orientation, so I'm choosing not to. I'm not planning to show some of those, but I think some of them are really good, so I would like to show them if you don't mind. But this is Maddie's, so since Maddie said she volunteered, then I thought I'd go ahead and show Maddie's. So this is analyzing Bruce Springsteen, and Bruce Springsteen, obviously prolific singer-songwriter, and so there's lots to analyze in terms of his language. And what Maddie's done, which is really cool, is take a look at it in voyanttools.org and then extract some of the key insights, which I think is really useful because, I don't know if you've linked to your corpus, but when you look at the Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'm surprised that it limits you to 38 text files. That's interesting. I didn't realize that. I think this is a good workaround that you made a text file for each album, but I think there's also, I mean, there are other ways to analyze big chunks of text besides Voyant tools, and you did plenty here, so I'm not saying you should have done more, but there might have been other ways around that too. But anyway, what Maddie did, which is really good, is to go through Voyant and then extract some of the things from it and explain it in some of these tables here. Because when you look at it in Voyant, it can be honestly kind of overwhelming because you have all these windows and these little things and these graphs, and it's like, what does this all mean? So I really appreciate the way, Maddie, that you're going through and explaining what each of these things mean and extracting the graphs when it's helpful, but using your own visualizations when it's easier. And I also appreciate you've got a pretty long exegesis here explaining what these things mean, like the idea of love peaking in the New River, right? So you've done a really good job of connecting your impressions from the data with your analysis of based on the context. So obviously these are song lyrics that exist in a real world created by a real person, so we can try to understand his motivations and his audience for these things and his shifting writing strategies as he works through it. So really interesting, and I appreciate how you went through this, especially to understand. You accomplished a deeper understanding of Bruce Springsteen, which is useful for anyone who's a fan of his, and just great. Great overall. So I really like, especially the 3x3 comparisons for each of these albums. I think is really crystallizes some of your insights really well. So very nice job. And by the way, I should see if I can find it. It's been a while since I mentioned this, so you probably don't remember, but I am working on a new version of DGST101.net and kind of is that really not it? Oh yeah, this is it. I just took away the homepage. So this is very much a work in progress, but one of the things I would really like to do, that's weird, that's the wrong, oh yeah, no it is, sorry, is feature some work by students. I have a lot here. These are from 395 classes, but I do want to feature projects from 101 students as well. So I have a web form for this somewhere that I'll share in Slack and Canvas. But if you are particularly proud of some of your projects, I would love to include them in this website. So the idea is that on the new version of DGST101.net, you would be able to go to a module, and so you see I've updated some of these. And then on cultural analytics, for example, I want to rewrite this text, but mainly I'd like to have like a gallery of projects. So hopefully I could include, for example, Brian's project down here for cultural analytics, and it would show up as an example of it. This site is so, I'm looking forward to getting back to working on this site once this semester's done. I had hoped to have it done by the end of this semester, and I still hope maybe to have it ready to use for my my summer class. I don't know if I'm going to get there or not. I'm just trying to find an example of a gallery of projects. I know I did it for one of them, just to kind of show you the way. I just wanted to show you the way it'll actually look in this digital audio. Yeah, so it's a lot about the seminar proof. Yeah, great. So this is a project by Patrick, and this is an example of a digital audio project. So the idea now is that in the future, if you're considering digital audio, you'd read it, and then you'd see an example of a digital audio project is Patrick's mixtape, which I wish you had a better screenshot of it, but this is Flex God Pat, as he likes to be known as the rapper, I guess. So he put together an album on SoundCloud. So I guess check it out. It's about digital studies. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I do enjoy it. Oh, there's us. There's the people who teach the class. I need to get it better. I don't like that picture. Anyway, so this is I would basically there's a web form that I'm going to invite you to submit your work through, and I have already sent that around once, so I just need to find it again. It's just a Google form. Okay, so a few other methodology projects that I thought turned out really well. Let's see. Some of these I have not looked at in super detail yet, so I'm kind of discovering them as I'm showing them to you too. But hopefully that's okay. So this is Emily Martens Harry Potter text analysis. So hopefully, Emily, this is okay if I share this. So let's see. All right, so she was interested. I'm really interested to see how this turned out. So she was really interested in comparing the two different tools, the two different versions of the first Harry Potter book. One of them, I don't know if she's got a link to her corpus. So one of those is the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone versus Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So let's see. Obviously, the word Harry shows up quite a lot. So I think so. Well, okay, so this is good. I mean, she's generalizing from her conclusions. I would like to see. Yeah, I think for side-by-side comparisons, it's kind of tricky in Voyant, but certainly possible. There's another tool called Juxta that I remember showing Emily that you can do what's called a diff comparison. Like you can look at two documents and it highlights the things that are different about them. And that might be useful to look at for this too. But yeah, this looks pretty good. And I am curious to find, I might try this in Voyant myself just to kind of see what, if any differences stand out at all. They may not. I mean, these books I imagine are mostly the same. They probably have more in common than they have different, but that's still pretty interesting then, because then those differences must be really significant differences. So that would be interesting to try to explore that way. Yeah, so let's see. I do have a few more that I had pulled up, I think. Let's see. Yeah. Yes, here's Megan's. I hope, Megan, it's okay if I share this. This is yours. If not, I guess you should tell me. But it's public on the web, so that's basically it. But Megan was using Voyant tools to analyze SCP documents. So SCP is a wiki, basically, but it's a creepypasta wiki. I don't know if that's what I actually don't remember what SCP stands for, but it is. I think of it as like a source of creepypasta, if that makes sense. Creepypasta are like internet ghost stories or urban legends, things like Slender Man. So SCP Wiki is a place where users can contribute these and respond to them and remix them and rewrite them. It's really just like a writing community, basically, but it's all these things that pretend to be documents of supernatural or cryptozoological or horror kind of things. Some of them are really, really gruesome. Like some of them are really intense, and I'm interested in it. I'm interested in it as a writing community. Distinctive words, I think, are really interesting, and I have not actually read through your analysis yet, Megan, but I'm just kind of skimming this. Distinctive words here. So a distinctive word is a word that, like, if you look at the whole corpus, like all of the documents in your group is a corpus, and so within that corpus, kind of an appropriate word for SCP, it sounds like corpse, but basically within that set, it's going to understand that certain words are going to be more characteristic of certain documents, so that if you encounter the word pestilence, for example, it's more likely to be in SCP-049 than it is to be in SCP-914. And so the writer of SCP-049 chose to use the word pestilence more often than other writers chose to use that word in their SCPs. And so it can be a kind of a way into stylometrics, like to understand how certain writers make certain word choices. But you can also see certain themes emerging. SCP wikis are really interesting because they're not going to have a whole lot of proper names. Usually when you look at distinctive words like this, proper nouns stand out because they, like if a book if one of these documents is about Philadelphia, let's say, well, there is one actually about Philadelphia that I remember, but if there is one about Philadelphia, then that word would show up a lot as a distinctive word for that particular document within the corpus. That's an example of how proper names come out. And you do see a couple like IKEA. That's pretty interesting that IKEA is the subject of an SCP. Cato could also be a proper name. Izumi. Thaumaturgic, though, that's an interesting word. What is that word? I know that word, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's an unusual word to begin with. Oh, okay, so it's miracle working, right? So that's it, or like doing magic, or but more conventionally or historically used in the context of like miracle working, like someone like Jesus performing miracles. So pretty interesting that that shows up as a distinctive word, an unusual word, a relatively uncommon word, but for the writer of SCP-1548, that was apparently an important word that they were able to use. So this is interesting. The scores here, I don't know the way Voyant presents these. I don't know if this is like 133, the 10. I don't know if that's saying that thaumaturgic got used 10 times there, or if that its TF IDF score was 10. And that I assume they're doing a TF IDF kind of analysis on here and to produce this. I have not actually looked at the source code for this part of Voyant, but I believe that's what they're doing. So that's interesting there. Also, just kind of skimming this, I thought it was pretty interesting how this Dr. Blank like that. You do see a lot of blanks in creepypastas, and I'm kind of curious because, as you see, there are these like actual doctors, right? People with names. But I'm pretty sure Voyant is not going to tokenize that as a word, and tokenize is how it interprets the word. So like when doctor shows up as a word, it's been tokenized by Voyant. I don't know. I don't think it's going to understand this as a word at all, just because those characters are not inherently alphabetical characters, and so it probably excludes those. So this is one of those things where if you were writing your own code to do this sort of analysis, you could decide whether or not to include those. But because you're using Voyant, you have to rely on Voyant's choice not to include those. And that's, I mean, it's a reasonable choice on Voyant's part, but if you're interested in how people use those blank characters, you would not be able to use Voyant to study that. So this is one of the interesting things. It's always trade-offs whenever you use another tool like Voyant. But like overall, really great analysis, it's just interesting how these work. So this is Doctor. Yeah, interesting. So the Hatbot? Is that really a Hatbot? Like a bot that makes hats? I must be misunderstanding. Anyway, so there's a lot of really good stuff going on here. So thanks, Megan, for sharing this. Hope it's okay that I shared it. Hopefully, I'm still showing you all the document that I'm looking at. Okay, good. Yeah, my lighting looks okay, right? I'm pulling up my preview. My lighting looks pretty good, I think. Hope it does, because this light is really bright in my eyes. Okay, another one. Yeah, okay, let me show Ian's, because Ian's turned out pretty well too. And Ian did a different kind of thing. So this is, I guess, I feel like content warning almost on coronavirus things, because the information is so overwhelming often. But I thought this is a good example of the kind of graph. I mean, we're seeing lots of these things these days, obviously, but these tools that we're using, like Palladio, these are the kind of tools that professional data analysts are using and data journalists are using as well to explain their stories. So this is Ian's view of he's got a map here of the first reported coronavirus case in each state. So really a good job of getting those figured out. Is it every state? I think looks like there might be some missing dots, but since you're connecting to locations within states, it's hard to tell in some cases where things are being linked. So I see us down here. Yeah, I think that was Fort Belvoir. That was the first location in Virginia. Anyway, so what's interesting about this view is and Ian's on here. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ian. Yeah, it is all 50 states. I'm not sure why that's in the water either, but that's one of those things, right? Yeah, I mean, it could have been something off the coast of Florida. It's hard to tell. Let me zoom in on that. No, that's definitely off the coast of Florida. I don't know why. But what's interesting about this view is that, like, you see, like, a line implies causation. And so this is what you see here. It's important to remember that whenever you make a visualization like this, that it's an interpretation, or it's a way of understanding the information. I think we know, and I'm sure Ian knows as well, like the idea of how the virus spread did not go in this linear way from this person in Washington who then, sent. So it's not necessarily the case that the person in Fort Belvoir got infected by this person from there, but you can kind of see. I mean, that's essentially what's happened. Like that's been the effect of what's happened, and so that's why it's kind of there's all these different graphs you've seen probably of like color, like the color of an area changing for how many people are infected, and you can kind of see a spread going that way. But the line is another way of showing that. The line has a much more direct implication, like it has a much more stronger implication that this person then led to this infection, which is of course the question. I mean, that is the big thing that people are trying to figure out. But this kind of view, like, I don't know if I don't know if you're listening to news. I've been gradually getting back into the habit of listening to the news. I avoided it for a while, but I'm back into the habit now, and people have been talking a lot about contact tracing as a way to help contain an outbreak in the future. And so I think this is what contact tracing would look like. It would look like, well, this person was in contact with this person, and now this person's over here, so we need to contact this person here before they spread it further. So it's interesting to kind of think about this view as something like that. Anyway, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I thought of when I was looking at that. Yeah, great. So again, I'm just kind of looking through a few examples here of people that have submitted things. If you have, if you don't mind me sharing your project, then let me know. Or if you do mind me, if you'd rather I didn't, then certainly, you know, let me know. Some of you, oh cool. So I'm looking at Lillian's. Lillian is doing, I guess you would say this is the digital journalism with a Medium post. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, so I'm just kind of looking through it. Let me put this on the screen that you all can see. And again, I hope it's okay, Lillian, if I'm showing your work. I have not looked at this before now, so let me just take a look at it. And I mean, really, a question I had not really thought much about. I'm not a pet owner at the moment, so pets are kind of off my radar. But it does make sense that in-store adoption events would be canceled. That would definitely have an impact. And in terms of digital journalism, I like the way you're telling a story here, and that you're telling that story with images and with video, and really making this an interactive web native kind of document, like something that needs to be it's a born digital kind of piece, and that's what digital journalism is really all about. Yeah, but it's interesting. You kind of have to go down through it. Oh, okay. I don't actually. So Lillian just posted in Slack. I tried to make a horizontal story. Medium didn't allow it. I'm actually not sure what a horizontal story is. I don't see anything that would be better about this story if it were horizontal, if that makes sense. Like, it looks fine vertically. Like, I'm reading the content here, but I don't actually know what a horizontal story. I don't read Medium that much as a. I mean, not that I avoid it either. It's just like if I find an article on it, I'll read it, but it's not something that I spend a lot of time on specifically. But yeah, it looks really good. And also, I mean, didn't talk about this a lot, but I do appreciate how you're acknowledging your sources on these photos. Make sure I mean, everyone should always do that. Either make your own images, like this looks like your own screenshot, or acknowledge where you get it from, right? And yeah, okay, great. So thanks, Lillian, for letting me show that briefly. Again, I'm just kind of going through these, so it looks really good. And I have not seen a whole lot of other people doing digital journalism, so I'd be curious to see if there's any more as I kind of look through it. Let's see, I've got Matt's here. Oh yeah, oh right. Let's see, so this is Matt Sims, and he was doing, I have not seen this yet, but I remember hearing his ideas a while ago. He was interested in the use of the color red, and he's looking at K-pop videos. So let's see, EXO, I don't know if you'd pronounce that EXO or whatever, but he was looking at them, and I agree that you do have a lot of red in these videos. I think that was kind of a question going in, like how red was the color you were interested in, but I wasn't sure if that was something that would be particularly dominant. But this looks really red, like really a lot of red in this. Even just even things that aren't totally red have kind of pinkish hues. But then like look at this, like this is a super red section of this video. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, so this is your combined color palette. Yeah, absolutely, very red. That's really interesting. I mean, I guess to kind of expand this, you'd have to look at like a broader sample, I suppose. But so there's kind of a question like, did you either consciously or subconsciously choose videos that actually did just have a lot of red in them, like because you knew they had a lot of red? But in these views, you can definitely see where it's used. Let's see. I mean, I'm wondering what's going on here, because it looks like this one and this one both have a pretty intense red stripe about 80% of the way through, 80 to the end. Like this last 20%, last 25% or so seems really dominated by red for both of these. So I'm kind of curious about that aesthetic choice. That seems to be a theme with those two. Whereas this one, the red is balanced. I mean, this one has a red in the front half too. This one does not. And this one has kind of red more evenly distributed. So you kind of have three different uses of red here in terms of compositionally where it appears in the video. But I think overall you definitely do get a lot of red, which you can definitely see through the averages. So that's pretty interesting as a takeaway. Yeah, cool. So hopefully it's okay that I showed that off, Matt. That looks great. Let's see. What else has a video I can show or something? Oh, interesting. Okay, so okay, that one. Yeah, some of these again I think are a bit more personal, so I'm trying to respect that. But that was really cool. Oh, what is this? This is Siobhan. Oh, interesting. Okay, so sorry, I'm looking at Siobhan's, and I hope it's okay if I share it, Siobhan. I don't know if you're watching, but I hope I can share this. This is, wow, okay, so am I sharing the right screen? Let me make sure. No, I'm not. I have many Firefox windows open, basically, and I'm kind of previewing them in one and then loading them into the other one to show you all. So this is urban legends from each of the 50 states. This is great. I mean, urban legends are fascinating to me, but I think this is a really cool way to show it off. I mean, you could also, I mean, you don't have to do this, obviously, Siobhan, but like you can also do images for some of these. You know, that's you know, the software does permit that. So the nice thing about this story map is like, you can click through it like this and kind of get them, or if there's one state that you're particularly interested in, you can click into it and see it. So let's take a look at Virginia. Oh, the Bunny Man. Yeah, I've heard of the Bunny Man. I don't remember where it is, but it looks like you've got the point near Lynchburg, so maybe that's where it is. Yeah, I definitely remember that. Let's see, what do you have? Other states that I know pretty well. Like, you've got Tennessee. You have the Bell Witch, maybe? Oh, yeah. I had a feeling. The Bell Witch is a good one. Yeah, she's the best. She's the best known, and the Blair Witch was loosely based on the Bell Witch legend, but yeah, I definitely know the Bell Witch. There, I mean, I grew up in Knoxville. There's a few Knoxville-oriented stories too, but none of them are quite as well known as the Bell Witch. And also just like the Gatlinburg, the Smokies area, the mountains, those also have their own sets of ghost stories, but yeah, the Bell Witch is pretty well known because she haunted a governor. So yeah, interesting. Oh yeah, I didn't realize. I forgot there was an Andrew Jackson connection, but there was another. Which governor was it? There was a like her whole mission basically. She cursed the family of one of the governors of Tennessee. Like she would continue to haunt them. Can't remember now, but anyway. Let's see, what other states? This is fun. I love urban legends, like because they're often really good stories. Columbia. Let's see. Boo hags. Oh, okay. Gross. Okay, so these are. This is interesting. So they climb into people's chests for a ride, and they suck out your breath. The whole idea of like a creature sitting on your chest, of course, is a recurring image or idea in urban legends. Usually called hags or nightmares. Like that's the idea of like being ridden like by a demon, like you're at the nightmare. Interestingly, though, those probably all emerge from an actual phenomenon called sleep paralysis, which is a experience where you sort of halfway wake up, but your mind wakes up, or your eyes do, but your body doesn't, so you feel like you can't move. And so people often, when they experience that, imagine that there is some creature keeping them from moving. It's a terrifying experience. It's happened to me. I hope it has not happened to any of you, but it's something that often stories like this have an origin in that actual phenomenon. Oh yeah, of course, Mothman. Yeah, there you go. Great, yeah, so good stuff. I could spend a while exploring this. So yeah, thanks, Siobhan, for putting this together. Right, so maybe time for one or two more. If anybody wants to get theirs in, this is your chance. Otherwise, I'll wrap it up pretty soon. Let's see. This is Darlene. Oh, great. So this is Darlene, and Darlene is mapping Parks and Recreation characters. And using Kumu, this is good because I'm trying to cover as many different approaches to methodology as possible. So this is the link, and I'll go back to the analysis in a minute, but this is, let's see, Parks and Rec. And I am familiar with Parks and Rec. I have not watched a lot of it, but what we can see here is characters and their connections to each other. Let's see. Okay, so you see how, okay, no, sometimes like lines get overlapping and you might get confusing. So we see, for example, here's April, here's Andy, right? And then the link is, well, it's purple. I don't know, you can, there's a choice you can make to have it display the legend. So it looks like purple might be a relationship connection because I see how Andy and April, I forget if they're married, but if they're connected by a purple line, that is the same kind of connection that these two have. Oh, rare. Oh yeah, so I see you do have, interestingly, that one does have the type of connection, and then, but it's only showing one of those colors. So I'm not sure. Maybe there's something else to do here. But it's interesting how Leslie becomes the center of the universe for Parks and Recreation, and of course that makes sense. So yeah, pretty cool. And I like doing this for a TV show because you can understand it. I mean, that's the kind of thing that if you tried to describe it in text, like if you just were trying to explain in Parks and Rec who all the characters were and how they were all related, you'd have to go on and on and on, right? I mean, it's something that's a relatively simple set of connections to understand, but to explain it in text would take forever. But Kumu or something like this, you can just map it all out very quickly, and then you can explain it, like let the map kind of show you that, and that's what's a great use of this tool. So cool, yeah, great, thanks. I hope that was okay, Darlene, that I showed that off because that looks good. All right, so let's see who else. Maybe one more. Anyone else we haven't heard from? Yeah, that was kind of personal, so I'm gonna choose not to show that one. But yeah, I think that's probably actually a good place to stop for today. So yeah, been going about 45 minutes. About time to wrap it up. Yeah, so I just want to say in general for anyone, is anyone still watching? Maybe they are. I've lost my stream manager tab. So, 11 viewers, great. So yeah, thanks for watching these. I had fun making these videos. I kind of slowed down last week because I had other stuff I had to do, but and I had an allergy chaos one day. But I have enjoyed making these, and I hope they've been useful to you. Many of you keep tuning in, so I hope that's a sign that these have been useful for you. I'm going to continue doing these probably for my summer classes. That's why I went ahead and set up the green screen, because I figured it would be useful. So if you have any thoughts about how this went, either the semester as a whole or the streaming part of it, or just anything at all, please let me know. There is a method in Canvas for the student evaluation of courses. I know that's working differently this semester, but I don't remember how it's working. So I don't know when I'm going to get to see that feedback, and I usually take a while to look at that feedback because I don't like to look at it too soon after a semester. I like to let it sit for a while. So if you have any thoughts about how things went, especially any suggestions for next time I teach this class, then send me those directly, like email or Slack. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, both about the class as it was going before things shifted, and then also after things shifted. I mean, hopefully we're still hoping to go face to face in the fall, and so hopefully, that will continue to be the case next time I teach this class, which will be in the spring again. I mean, I'm teaching it in the summer, but that's online anyway. So yeah, I mean, I'm always curious to hear how things are going and how you think things work, especially things that you thought were most valuable and things that or things that you wish we could have done more with or had more time to work on. Those are good things to hear about, because that lets me know kind of what to shift around if I need to shift around. So yeah, thanks for watching this stream today, whether you're watching it live or in the playback, the archive. So I'll be posting these. Also, did I tell you all? I need to take a look at. Sorry, the job posting. I'm going to put that on the CDS Facebook page in a few minutes too. So anyway, yeah, let me know if you have any questions about your final stuff. Make sure you've turned it in. I will be going through and sending you notices or notifications if I can't find something. I'll be reaching out to you. Also, I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but you may have heard of course there's the credit/pass/no credit course grading option. And they have extended, I'm pretty sure, that the window for which you can make that decision. Now it goes beyond when final grades are in. So you can actually wait until you get your final grade for this class and then decide if it makes sense to switch to the flexible option or if you want to keep the letter grade. So I think that's great, because in some cases you may just not have enough information about some classes to really know what the best option is for you. I would say this probably is a conversation for you and your advisor, but if I am your advisor, I would say if you're getting anything over a C, you should definitely take the letter grade. If you are getting a C, maybe you could consider maybe the flexible option would be better, but I think that if you can get a letter grade it helps your GPA, that's the best outcome for that. So that's kind of a case-by-case decision, but I think most people are going to be better off with a letter grade, actually. So let me know if you have any questions about that in your specific, for your specific decision for this class. I'd be happy to talk through it with you if you'd like. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching these streams. Thanks for watching today, and hope you have a good day and summer and future and everything else. So I'll see you around. Bye.